Assalamu alaikum guys. I wanted to share some thoughts in regards to belief and certainty. Because a lot of times I get the question that, I believe in Allah, I believe in Islam, but I want that extra level. I want that little bit more. I want to have that certainty, that yaqeen. And I think this is a problem people face because we're looking for that type of certainty in the wrong places. And what mean by that is that when we're looking for this type of certainty, we normally think that we will arrive at it through, you know, logical arguments, through reasoning, through deduction, etc. But that's not the case. And let me give you guys an analogy and an example. Someone could prove to you, and imagine for a second that you've never tasted mangoes before, right? The fruit, mango. You've never had it, you've never tasted it, you've never experienced it. Now, someone can convince you rationally, logically, that mangoes are sweet. They can do this, right? Now you may be convinced, you may believe, therefore, that mangoes are sweet. But that belief will never be at the level which it will be at once you actually taste a mango for yourself, when you experience it for yourself, when you taste that sweetness. And normally that's the natural way of things, that once you're convinced of something, or say in the case of mangoes, when you believe they're sweet, you want to taste that sweetness, and then you go ahead and buy mangoes, especially because we're in mango season now. You buy the mango, you taste it, and you will therefore know that it's actually sweet. And once you've experienced it yourself, you don't need any further proof. You don't need any further reasoning or justification, because we've used our senses, our physical senses, in particular the sense of taste, to taste the mango, and now we know. It's a knowing now. You can say it's certainty. In a similar way, when it comes to Islam, when it comes to the belief in Allah, there is a realm of logic and reason and deduction where we can go through certain argumentation, some powerful arguments that establish God exists, that Islam is true, that the Quran is from Allah. We have all of this. And this takes you to a certain level of certainty, but it's not an ends in and of itself, it's a means. We have to see it as a means, but in most cases we see it as an ends, and that's why we struggle, because we want more from this sphere of reasoning. We want to go from that belief to certainty. But I don't think the intellect, the mind, our rational faculties are designed for that, in any sphere, in anything. And even in the example of the mango I gave you. And therefore, we have to see it as a means, and it is a means, it's a door. It opens the door to the next part of the journey. And when it comes to Islam, it has to be experienced. When it comes to Allah, you have to experience that connection with Allah. Just like we use our physical senses, again, in the case of the mango, we use the sense of taste in particular, touch as well, but taste, to taste the mango. We have to use our, if you like, spiritual sense, the heart, the spiritual heart, to engage in that connection with Allah. That's why many times we hear the Prophet ﷺ in certain narrations refer to the sweetness of Iman. Now, this sweetness is not sweetness you taste with your tongue. It's a sweetness that the soul experiences, the heart tastes. So the heart tastes, the soul tastes, the soul sees, the soul feels. The soul smells, the heart smells in a way, but it's smelling, it's tasting, it's touching, it's feeling is not exactly like the way our physical senses experience the world and things in this world. And when it comes to Allah, Allah is not a part of this world. Allah is beyond His creation. He's unlike anything we could imagine, and therefore we have to use that spiritual sense, the heart, and engage the heart. And how do we do this? This is Islam. We practice, we do the 5 daily prayers, we connect with Allah, we do dhikr. And these are the means to that certainty now. That certainty that we're looking for. So the rational mind, our rational faculties lead us to the truth of Islam, lead us to the truth of God, confirm what's already within the fitrah. But then, now we have to go on that journey, take that next step, which is to experience this reality. Imam al-Ghazali, for example, is a beautiful example of this reality. We know after his crises, he went on a journey, and what he engaged in were the basic practices of Islam. Although he had all the arguments, he was one of the greatest intellects of his time, one of the greatest intellects the world ever seen. Yet, For him to arrive at that certainty, he had to go through the experiential process, that process of practicing and living Islam, connecting with Allah, you know, where the heart receives things, the intellect of the heart, if you like. So there is a type of intellect that the heart has, which experiences realities beyond this physical plane, this physical world. It is quite difficult, especially in the times that we live in, because we live in a world which promotes the physical, you know, speaks about the mind, the intellect, speaks about reasoning, empiricism, but it doesn't speak about the heart, the soul. You know, it doesn't recognize these things. But we have to get in tune with this reality of the human being, ourselves, and then start to experience this connection with Allah, closeness to Allah, talking to Allah, doing dhikr, remembering Allah. That's when the certainty enters the heart. You know, and that's a journey we're all on. We're all trying, and sometimes we are, you know, we get closer to experiencing these realities, and sometimes we're far from them. But that's where that yaqeen, that certainty lies. You're not gonna attain it solely via the intellect or rational reasoning, you know, through deductive argumentation. That's a part of it, that's a means. But take that next step as well, inshallah. And that's why I encourage everyone that once they're convinced Islam is the truth, they're convinced that Allah exists, that Allah is uniquely one, that He's unlike anything you can imagine, when you understand these things logically, rationally, then start to now engage in Islam. Because what is Islam? It's submission. What is submission? It's to act, it's to practice. And that's what we need to do. And start with the basics, start with the salah, start with dhikr. And I'm speaking to myself first and foremost, and we need to do this, and you will realize and you will see that when you start to practice Islam, that certainty will enter your heart, and you will get to the point, inshallah, may Allah allow us all to reach the point where we've experienced the truth of Islam via that spiritual sense, to the degree where we know and there's no room for doubts. It's beyond doubt, you know, it's just beyond, you know, everything. And you don't therefore need to be, how can I say this, you don't need that reassurance through logical arguments and so on and so forth. So hopefully that helps. Just wanted to share these thoughts, inshallah. May Allah bless you all, may Allah make it easy for us. Till next time, take care. Assalamu alaikum.